What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B, a.k.a. the 110 Soldier. Football season is almost done. We do have the Super Bowl in a couple weeks, but right now I want to focus on my favorite sport as today, pop the first picture up. We are talking basketball and the State of the Union. State of the NBA is what I'm calling today's segment and show and everything else. We're going to be focusing on the league itself and the goods and bads and the uglies, the ins and outs. I'm not going to try to gaslight you with any nonsense. Going to try to hit you with the truth. Not going to be like, it's the greatest league. Probably the greatest league ever. You know, I invented basketball. James Naismith back in the day said I needed a sport. I said, why don't you put a ball in a peach basket? He said, well, it's a great sport. I'm not going to get any nonsense like that. We're going to actually talk about the league like you can see on the picture. We're going to talk about the economy of the league. We're going to talk about things they talk about in the State of the Union like foreign immigration, trade deadline speculation, new policies, new rules, and as always, a focus on education and teach you because we love you children out there. But let me go ahead and get right into it. We got a lot of things to cover. If you can hit this next picture here for me, Mateo. The NBA stock. Let's start there. If we're going to talk State of the Union of the NBA, let's talk stock. Is the NBA stock down? Yeah, a little bit. It's been covered a lot over the year, and I want to kind of address this because there is truth to it, and there's also reasons everybody is wrong. Just how bad is it right now? Well, I mean, ratings are down. Television ratings are down in the United States. They're down 28% over the first month. They've been down about 20% overall from last season. Average views currently in the NBA are only 1.4 million. To give you an idea, it was 2.5 million average just in 2012. Wasn't that long ago. Now, that is in the United States. What the NBA has done, and I think to a fault sometimes, is we've really twisted into a global situation because that is where the money and the viewership is now coming from. I mean, I could start with China.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
I mean, that's fine with me. You look at how they've gone global to really help the drop in ratings and interest here in the United States. 90% of Chinese people now that have an internet connection have been said to watch the NBA. 90%. It has become a global sport. It's up 122% in Portugal. It's up 81% in Italy, 36% Mexico, 11% Canada. Some of the ones that are harder to get the numbers for, but of course places like Turkey with Şengün coming out of there, Jokic in Serbia, Luka in Slovenia are all up. Everything is up so far globally, and that is what's really pushed into the next level because even though television's ratings are down, and a lot of people have talked about the television ratings, they are still making money out of their wazoo, out of the you-know-what. They just signed that new media deal last year. That is an 11-year, $76 billion deal with Disney, NBC, and Prime, and I was glad to see Inside the NBA was able to stick around, and they're able to kind of move that, into different situations. I love that show, and that would have been the only thing I really missed. But as far as the NBA revenue to itself, it's the highest it's ever been. So ratings may be down, interest may be down, but the NBA, as far as its money being made, is at $10 billion plus per year. And to go back to 2012, it was only $3.7 billion in 2012. It's up to $10 billion plus per year now. $86 billion net worth valuation that was given just recently. They are not struggling for money. The interest may be down, the viewership and kind of the overall feeling is that the league needs changes and this and that and the other thing, but you can't argue with the dollar. The dollar says they're doing better than they've ever done. But it is worth noting because in the end, this is an American-made sport. That's American-played sport. I mean, yes, the world is catching up, and thank you for joining us, but this is still kind of our only homegrown sport, not named the National Football League. And the United States TV ratings are down, and it's not good, man. ABC, ESPN, TNT, NBA TV report currently are down 25% as of January 2nd. And even looking at the top game, the NBA Finals, the last 2 years, and it's unfortunately there hasn't really been those domestic big stars we've been looking for. The NBA Finals last 2 years has only averaged 11 million viewers. To give you an idea, just back in 2015 through 19, when it was Steph versus LeBron, we were averaging anywhere from 18 to 19 to 20 million. So there's been a lot of speculation, and this is the part I really want to focus on when I talk about state of the NBA to start off my State of the Union address, is the reasons why the television ratings are down. Y'all have frustrated me because I've heard all this rabble And you're wrong. I mean, I'm sorry. I've heard a lot of people really get into this and break it down. It's been kind of the big story of the NBA of why ratings are down and why interests are down. And I hear a lot of nonsense. There's too many threes. It's all Steph's fault. There's too many threes being shot. There's not enough defense. You know, they don't have any effort anymore. They don't hustle on defense. You know what it is? It's load management. And that one I actually do agree with a little bit. But then other ones are there's too many regular season games. The games are too long. We need to shorten the games to 10-minute quarters. There's no intensity. They're soulless. It's the politics. It's the woke politics. And I think that did have maybe a few years ago a little bit, but we kind of moved away from that. And these solutions that I'm hearing are bananas. Like, it's such an extreme, unnecessary kind of overreaction to what's going on. I've heard things to quote-unquote fix the NBA. People say things like, we need to eliminate the quarter three-pointer to make the three-point line, just go out to where there's no longer a corner three-point shot. Again, need to shorten the games. We need to shorten the 40-minute games. We need to shorten the season to 60 games per season. We need to let them be more physical back when we were really cranky, when games were like 88 to 76 in the early 90s. You guys are out of your damn mind. And I'll make this really easy here for you as I'm going to get to my, diagnosis of what I'm trying to say and what actually the NBA needs to do. What does the NBA need to do to bring the fans back? And to me, I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with these extreme rule changes that you guys have proposed, or even the diagnosis of it's too many threes or it's not enough defense. The NBA and the media analysts covering this situation to me, are acting like doctors who are focused on curing the symptoms and not the actual disease. The only thing the NBA needs right now is new stars and new storylines, and that's it. It really is that simple. Do you know how I know this? Steph versus LeBron. Just the last couple months, Christmas Day, Steph versus LeBron got 7.9 million viewership. That was the highest ratings they've had in 5 years. Just a week ago in January, they got 3 million viewers for Steph and LeBron. That was the second highest and double the average game currently in the NBA. The 4 finals where Steph and LeBron played each other, again, averaged 19 million versus 11 million in the last 2. Those 19 million views were on average more than anything they've seen since 2001. The NBA and the analysts are overcomplicating a very simple issue of who's next. The NBA's biggest problem is that you got lucky and you've been lazy because you've had domestic stars handed to you since 1980. It almost went completely bankrupt, and then in 1980, Magic and Bird showed up. And then they went ahead and passed it over to Michael Jordan. Then you did have those thin years, which I think is kind of where we're at right now. But then finally Kobe showed up and Shaq, and then we had him play the Celtics. Then it moved on to LeBron James showed up. And then we had Steph Curry. We've always had somebody to pass the torch to, and right now the NBA's biggest problem is that you're in that kind of mid-years, those 94, 95, 99 years when MJ was either retired or on his way out, and we didn't have that next big domestic star to pass the torch to. And this is not, again, this isn't rocket science. There really isn't. You can look at the 3 other leagues just last year that were quote-unquote struggling to make my point. Major League Baseball had the 4 lowest ratings in the World Series consecutively since its inception of television ratings in the 1960s. Shohei and Judge showed up. Suddenly, MLB's doing great. WNBA's had terrible ratings forever. They had their best ratings since their inception in 98-99, of course, because of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. Boxing, which has been decimated by UFC, had over 100 million views for the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. Now, that was a god-awful fight, but it was something that caught our intrigue. It was stars we wanted to see, whether it deserved to be or not, and that 100 million views was not just the most watched in boxing history. It rivaled the damn Super Bowl. The product is not the problem. The three-point shot y'all complain about is just the 18-footer that guys like Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Olajuwon, and Lonzo Mourning shot in the 1990s. All they've done is move a step back. That's it. I mean, talent evolves. This happens in all sports. You know, pitchers in MLB throw faster. Hitters hit farther. Tight ends and running backs catch the ball more. They don't just block or run out of the backfield. The idea that it's something that needs to be diagnosed, switched, or changed is nonsense. And I don't even know what y'all are saying about the defense thing, to be honest, because if you watch teams, the really good ones, the Houstons, the OKCs, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Celtics, I seen the same swarming, sweltering defense I've seen for a very long time, and definitely in the last, 5 to 10 years, the defense has not changed so much to where they were just getting ratings back in the day when it was Steph versus LeBron. You need stars. You need stories. You need to pass the torch. Who's next? Who's the next domestic star? Who's that transcendent person that everyone's going to, with all the things we could watch, say, instead, I'm going to watch this? Where's the Jordan? Where's the Kobe? Where's the Steph? Where's the LeBron? Where's the Tiger, the Brady, the Shohei, the Caitlyn? Who is the next one that's going to make us all sit on our keisters and go, no matter what else is on, this is what I want to see? Because we had it with Steph and LeBron. The problem is they've gotten old. And we haven't figured out who to pass it to next. But that is the only issue. We do not need to do any of this nonsense or this horseshit of eliminating quarter threes or doing any major rule changes. We don't need to do any of that. We just need to find out who do we pass the torch to. Period. End of story. The rest of it, again, is just talk. Just noise out of your face. Just rabble, 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 and a bunch of nonsense. And I'm shocked to be seeing that apparently it's gotten to the commissioner. Like, y'all have overdiagnosed and overcomplicated the NBA's issue so much, you got the commissioner panicking. Now, as much as I love Adam Silver, before I play this video, and you got to hear this, I will say my only issue with Adam sometimes is, while it is great that global is becoming a big thing and we are making more money that way, obviously involving the entire world, he is a little too focused on trying to make us like everything else. The NBA Cup, which I'll talk about later, that was nonsense. He had, a lot of plans to kind of make us like the rest of the world. And this last idea, I can't even believe he said this shit out loud. You guys got to hear. He actually wants 40-minute games and thinks it's a good idea. That's insane.
That's dopey talk. That's dopey talk.
What are you talking about? Pop this video up here for me, Mateo. This is just recently.
Something else that I'm a fan of, and I'm probably in a minority, as we get more involved in global basketball, the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes. And I am a fan of 4 10-minute quarters. I'm not sure that many others are. I mean, putting aside what it means for records and things like that, I think that a 2-hour format for a game is more consistent with sort of modern television habits. I don't think people in arenas aren't asking us to shorten the game, but I think as a television program, being 2 hours, that's Olympic basketball is 2 hours. College basketball, of course, is
but
is
if
40
you like it, I'd say it has kind of a little bit of a push there.
Yeah, but it's such a dramatic change to the game. I mean, I think something like that would have to be talked more about over time. I mean, incidentally...
But the pitch clock was dramatic, Commissioner.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I'm a fan of what baseball did. I'm a baseball fan, and I think some of those changes have really increased sort of the engagement, the entertainment value of the game. And so paying a lot of attention to that. And in fact, I've used increasing the size of the base, et cetera, in meetings at the NBA to say, if baseball, which is more locked into tradition, I don't mean that negatively, than any other sport, certainly we shouldn't be afraid to look at changes as well.
Okay, the only thing, at least, besides
brain.
the nonsense, at least he did say that these would be drastic changes that he doesn't think he's going to do. But the fact that he's thinking about it, and even worse, comparing it to baseball, if there's any sport that basketball does not, correlate to. I played baseball and basketball. I was actually told I was better at baseball, and I left it because even in Little League, it was long, it was boring, it was constant breaks, and basketball, no matter, even with timeouts and some other things, dude, it kept my ADD attention. It kept things going. That's a sport that keeps things pushing more than almost any other sport, maybe hockey or soccer, as far as nonstop breaks. The hell are you talking about comparing it to baseball, a sport that was making 4, 5-hour, 18-inning games with these long-ass breaks in between the pitches? That's why they had to get drastic with the pitch clock. The NBA is not in that situation. Again, this is over. You guys are doctors just trying to cure symptoms and ignoring the disease. You just need the next star. That's it. We don't need to do any extreme bullshit rule. We don't need less games. We don't need shorter quarters. We don't need to eliminate quarter threes. We don't need to bring back the hand checking again from the mid-90s that, if y'all don't remember, you complained about out loud because it made the game longer and more boring and less scoring. I mean, 50, 60 game seasons. What the hell are y'all talking about? All of this is just nonsense. It really isn't what is the actual problem with the NBA. I will admit the NBA does have a problem in that viewership is down, even though it's up globally. But I will not agree to any of this nonsense of major rule changes. I will not agree to comparing it to Major League Baseball and the pitch clock. I will not agree that you need to do some drastic thing other than you are in that mid-90s era with no Jordan. You're in that 99 year with no Jordan. LeBron and Steph are old. The other stars are not from here. Who is the domestic star that we're all going to rally around and start, cheering for the same way we did Caitlyn just last year in the WNBA, the same way we did Aaron Judge and Shohei in Major League Baseball, the same way we had boxing suddenly be the most watched thing ever with Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. That is the only... Sorry. All right, I want to move on to my State of the Union here to foreign relations because it is true. This is the first time ever. Hit the picture here for me, Mateo. They are taking our jobs.
They took our job.
I don't know what to do about this. I don't know what the NBA does. I mean, it is, again, causing more viewership worldwide. But this is the first time ever in NBA history, I can say this with all sincerity. You are looking at those 4 players. This is the first time ever the top 4 players in the NBA of present and then future, Mount Rushmore, are all foreign. And I didn't even put in there Giannis or Sabonis. But, I mean, you're looking right there. This is the first time in NBA history the best 4 players and the ones with the brightest futures are all not from the United States. And, I mean, it only gets from top to bottom here. Jokic, hey, look, man, going for his 4th MVP, should probably get it. He's 3rd in scoring and 3rd in rebounds. He's 2nd in assists. He's 2nd in three-point percentage. He's putting up numbers we haven't seen since Wilt frickin' Chamberlain. Behind him, the Canadian SGA is number 1 in scoring right now, 32.5 points per game. Thunder have one of the best records in the league. He's number 2 in steals and has only picked it up, man. Dude, that guy is a tough cover. He is a tough dude, man. 37.6 assist average over the last 10 games with some 50 bombs in there as well. That dude is just really up next as far as our best scorer. Luka has been hurt, but I mean, when healthy, it's Luka. You know what time it is with Luka, just coming off a finals appearance where he basically carried him by himself, averages 31, 9, and 8 in his 4 playoff years. Even with this year starting slow and being hurt, he is still averaging 28, 8, and 8. Wemby is clearly up next. I mean, he is leading this whole French Renaissance revolution, whatever you want to call it. He is the first one out the gate, but just last year we had 5 other French people drafted in the NBA just last season, and Wemby at just 21 years old is a 7'4" alien, just maniac freak, 24 and 11, 4 blocks per game already number 1. He just got voted his first All-Star. Congratulations there. He's coming off his Rookie of the Year last year, and so that's the best 4. That is the best 4 players in the NBA are Slovenian, French, Canadian, and Serbian, and I didn't even mention Giannis, and I didn't even mention Sabonis, and I don't have anybody on the domestic side, this new star, that is even close to catching up, which sucks because, I mean, we still win in the Olympics. It still seems like it's our sport, that it should be homemade and homegrown, and we should have somebody to compete with these guys. We don't. Right now, we don't. I don't know what to tell you. Again, LeBron and stuff are old, but like the next generation, Anthony Edwards, I love Anthony Edwards, and I think we thought he was going to be able to compete with these top guys up here. Anthony Edwards currently is 8th in scoring. He's 62nd in rebounds. He's 54th in assists. The Jokic, to give you an idea, is top 3 in all of those categories. He's 8th, 62nd, and 54th. Again, Steph and LeBron are too old. Kevin Durant is too old. Our other young guys, talented guys like Melo and Morant, unfortunately, you can't put them at the face of the league. They're too busy trying to play Papa Doc on Instagram. Trae Young is good, but I mean, he wasn't even voted an all-star, so you can't put him above those guys. Zion is either fat or injured, and it seems like there's no in-between with him. Anthony Davis is hurt again, and he's always hurt, and he's gotten old. Jason Tatum, yes, just won a title last year, but I mean, the dude has no personality other than when he's Shang-Tsunging other people's and doing impersonations of what other people have said to have some sort of interesting thing to say. Cade, Tyrese, they're good, but they're not great. Hero, Jimmy Butler's gotten old and lost his mind. Who is it? I mean, give me who it is. Tell me who is the American star that compete right now currently or in any way you can put in the same category as Luka, as Wemby, as SGA, and especially Nikola Jokic. I don't have one. I really don't. And it's not that it's a bad thing. I want to make sure, because so many, nowadays with the political climate and judging people, this is not being disrespectful, and this is not trying to say that it's a bad thing at all that we have this global influence and that the game has only gotten better. A rising tide will always raise all ships. But I don't think we're any different than any other country where ratings have been proven to not be as good if it's only foreign players or foreign-led. They don't sell as much. They don't get as much eyeballs, and I don't think America is any different than any other country. I think if there's a European soccer league in Italy or Spain somewhere, and suddenly all the best players were from like Texas and Tennessee, I think behind closed doors, they'd be like, hey, we're glad, these guys are doing well, but hey, we need some Spanish dudes to keep up. We're supposed to be the soccer part of the world. We can't have Texas coming over here and kicking our ass on a daily basis. So I don't think we're an individual or we're somehow wrong for noticing it. And again, the numbers don't lie. I don't know what to tell you. The numbers don't lie. The last 3 or 4 finals with Luka, Jokic, and Giannis had a 10 million viewership average. That is 2 million less than even Steph versus Jason Tatum in that same span at 12 million. The San Antonio Spurs, which besides boring Tim Duncan, had nothing but, Ginobili's and Parkers and all that. They have the lowest recorded ever watched finals in all of NBA history at 9 million, and they pulled that off twice. The Rockets, who, of course, were led by the great Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, this was obviously coming off Jordan, but they were down 30% in those finals from the previous years when Mike was there. And you look at any other sport. You look at golf post-Tiger Woods. We haven't really, seemed to watch them as much. You look at tennis post-Serena Williams. We haven't seemed to watch tennis as much. Boxing. Again, other than the Tyson-Jake Paul celebrity blip, look at boxing when after it was, the Holyfields and Tysons of the world, it got taken over by Lewis, Klitschko, and Fury. We just don't have as much interest as we would if we had somebody that, for whatever reason, I don't know, you want to call it tribalism or homegrown or homerism, whatever you want to say, but when your sport supposedly, where it's supposed to be where it was made and played here, where we still win Olympic gold medals, and you look at all the best players are from all other parts of the world, I don't think it's a beneficial thing, of course, for them, the U.S. ratings, and it can't be shocking when they go down, because history has shown this throughout all time. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be a jerk. This is going through all time. You look at the 10 most watched games ever in NBA history, they all have very common names. Some of these guys repeated, but the 10 most watched games in NBA history, Kobe, Magic, Bird, MJ, LeBron, Steph, it just is what it is. The top-selling jerseys this year, this is another kind of give you a perspective. The top-selling jerseys this year, even though those are the 4 best players, and I'm admitting that and I'm agreeing with it, those are the 4 best players currently in the NBA. The top-selling jerseys right now are still Steph, LeBron at 2, Tatum, and Brunson at 4. The main guys we're talking about here, Luka is only 8th. Giannis is 9th. Jokic, best player in the league, is 10th. And SGA is 11th. So, I mean, what do you want me to tell you? That I won't, speak on what's going on because it's insensitive. No, it's nothing wrong with it. And it's not even that people are upset about it. But without somebody to kind of counterbalance it, and I don't know who's going to do it, the NBA is going to have an issue going forward. And I hope they don't try to do some sort of, again, dramatic like, get rid of the three-point line in the corners, whatever else nonsense. It's all silly. I love the global movement, but I don't love some of the things that are coming with it as far as ratings and then extreme overreaction. So let me move on then. I want to say this real quick, too. I'm talking about the Joker. And look, I put up a video last week, and I posted it, and I got to admit, I appreciate the love. It's like at 170,000 views last I checked. 300 plus shares and 300 something comments on TikTok there. Hopefully TikTok sticks around. But I got to say, y'all still have a little bit of the wrong idea about my whole perspective on all this, especially the Joker, Nikola Jokic, because I was saying, when the best player in your league tells you he doesn't give a shit and you're struggling for the next star in ratings, it's not good. Not good. It's not good that the best player, the one who's supposed to be at the forefront, every time you ask him, clearly will say things like, I don't give shit, I want to go home, and all that types of things. And again, got a lot of responses and comments. I appreciate it. But, I mean, the main ones I heard was that it's a false narrative with Nikola Jokic, that you're not giving him his due, that he's actually just playing you in the media. Other people said, hey, he's got his priorities right. He puts his family first. He puts his life first. He doesn't make basketball his whole life. That's a good thing. He loves the game as much as the next person. He just hates the media. Not caring about basketball as much as some of the other ones that I've watched back in the day do actually makes him better. You just have to appreciate him. And I'll say this, I think you're right about everything you all just said. I think there might be a little bit of him messing with us and trolling us in the media. I do think his priorities are in the right as far as for a life perspective. I do think he obviously has some love for the game. He can't be that good and not love the game at all. And there might be some truth to, like, hey, when you don't care as much as like a Kobe or a Jordan where it's life or death, feeling the pressure is kind of harder when you don't have the same amount of stakes. And so maybe it actually makes him a better player. I'll agree with all of that. I will again go back to my dilemma. He doesn't sell. And maybe, he's starting to pick up in popularity this year, but so far, the NBA who needs it, the league I love, needs that next big one. Your best player doesn't sell. Again, he's 10th in jersey sales. The Christmas Day wrap-up we had of the 5 games on Christmas Day, he had the lowest viewed of the 5 games total. The 2023 finals, which he won, was the lowest watched in 15 years. That was not the pandemic or the Giannis one right after it. I mean, I think Jokic is a great guy. I think he's a great father. I think he's a great teammate. I think he's funny. But when he tells you, like, I don't like this life and I don't want to be here and I don't care, while he's the best in the world, how do you market it? And that has always been my question with Nikola and this whole dilemma. I mean, I'll pop up this video here for me. Y'all think it's a false narrative.
Like
Listen to
it. Because at the end of the day, we are just basketball players, so we are just good at what we are doing. But media is something that is around us. And of course, we're getting paid because of the media, because of popularity, so... But being famous, I think some people like it, some people don't. When I finish my career, I really wish nobody knows me, and I really wish my kid or kids in the future, who knows, really remember me as a dad, not as a basketball player.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna say that's gonna be my goal in life, and to not have phone. I think that's another big goal of mine, just to live in the moment, like you said, like being a normal person, like living the moment.
All right, again, I have no problem with it, but the question is, am I a fan? Am I a life coach of like, hey, I think he's got a great perspective on life, or am I a fan of the NBA and I'm looking at the best dude in the league who tells you literally, I don't like this life? So hit the video next for me here, Matteo. I got the same question. Again, I appreciate all your love and all the shares and all the comments, but I don't know what the NBA does. That is what I'm saying. It's not about whether I like him. It's what do you do and how do you market when the best player in the world literally tells you he doesn't care at a time when they haven't had since the mid-90s without Jordan such a desperate need for new stars post-Steph and LeBron. It is not just a false narrative, too. It's the only comment I have to respond to. Y'all are not listening to him speak the way I am. I mean, you ask him these questions. Do you work out in the off-season? No. Hey, the championship, you ready to go to the parade? I don't want to go to the parade. In the interview here, I don't like this life. I hope I am forgotten. He has great priorities. He's a great teammate and father. And again, maybe not caring so much does make him a better player. But most generational players that I knew cared too much, and they were easy to sell because they cared about it more than even you did. The Bradys, the Kobes, MJs, Magics, Birds, Tigers, they were insane. I mean, they loved it so much and cared about it so much that they sacrificed family and friendships, because I was always told to get to that level, that's what it took. Now I got a guy, and an NBA's got a guy who's the best out there and is a generational talent, which there's no dispute that he is generational, averaging 30, 13, and 10 this year, 48% from threes. He's second in the league. He has numbers that we have been so dominant we haven't seen since Wilt Chamberlain. He's going to get to his 4th MVP. Wilt and LeBron, he's joining them. He's passing Magic, Bird, and Steph if he wins this year, and they all had crazy work ethics, and, the only ones he's got to catch now are Jordan, Jabbar, and Russell. That's all he has left to catch. How do you sell that? What do you do? What do you do in the NBA? Like, imagine if you had a movie star and he goes on interviews and you tell him, like, hey, it turns out you might win some Oscars for Best Actor, this and that. And he'd be like, Jimmy, I don't really want to talk about the movie. I don't really care about being an actor. Do you want to watch the movie? It's a musician. Hey, your new album. It's going to get 10 Grammys, I've heard. It's all right. I mean, it's decent. I wouldn't, if you pick it up, let me know. But, I mean, other than that, I really don't want you to care too much about it. What do you do when he might be the fourth greatest player of all time, at least by the numbers and by MVPs? And when he asks him about it, he says, I hope I've forgotten, and I hope that people, let me go be, and I don't really care and everything else. It is still a dilemma. I don't care what you say. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the love, but you guys have to give me some credit here in knowing the market, knowing how to sell things. NBA is definitely in a conundrum with Jokic and the Joker. The joke is always and still continues to be on us. Moving on into different parts of the NBA. Let's start fixing some things. I want to talk about new rules and changes. Let's start with All-Star Weekend. Hit this for me, Mateo.
Somebody say.
Oh, this is another big part in the NBA when it's struggling. How do we save All-Star Weekend? Coming up here pretty soon, February 14th through 16th. Going to be in Oakland, so that'll be nice to see Steph Curry be in his hometown and his area. But once a highlight of the NBA season has quickly become a not just humongous black eye, it's become an embarrassment. I mean, this went from the highlight of the year in certain years to consistently embarrassing the NBA and is in desperate need of fixing in all parts of the categories. The game itself is a joke. I mean, it's become a joke. It's the second lowest watched in the last 20 years because the final score was 211 to 186 in a literally a freaking layup line. That was just embarrassing. They tried to bring back the three-point contest. I'll talk about that. Caitlin Clark said no to that.
How about no?
And I got thoughts on that as well. The dunk contest is, it's going to bring back McClung. But other than that, Stephon Castle, Matas Buzelis, and Andre Jackson Jr. is not exactly a who's who of stars for the dunk contest. So the game itself is a joke. The three-point contest doesn't have Caitlin Clark and needs her. And the dunk contest itself with Mac and Stephon and Matas and Andre is not moving the needle. The people that actually made the list as far as the All-Star game, I'll quickly throw this in here, the All-Star game itself. Eastern Conference this year, the starters included Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Tatum, Giannis, and Kat. The bench players that were voted in announced just yesterday, Jaylen Brown, Pascal Siakam, Darius Garland, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Damian Lillard, and Tyler Hero, who was very excited about that. Most people want to talk about the snubs, and I will agree that some of these were not, in my opinion, the right people voted in. Whether, maybe not Paolo Banchero because he was hurt, but, LaMelo Ball, as much as he can be a wild card, does have good numbers. Trae Young got flat-ass robbed. I don't know how Trae Young, who is leading the league in assists and has had 2 years of 25 and 10, will be the first guy ever to not be voted to the All-Star team either year. While, again, Cunningham and Garland and Siakam, they're good players. They're not Trae Young. A lot of people threw in Tyrese Maxey as well. I'll agree with that. I think Tyrese Maxey had an argument. In the Western Conference, a little more complicated as far as snubs because it's a little more loaded. I mean, the starting lineup alone, Steph Curry, Shea, LeBron, Durant, and Jokic. Coming off the bench in the West, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, James Harden, Jaren Jackson, Şengün. Talk about the Rockets later. Jalen Williams, Victor Wembanyama. I do think there were some snubs there too, though, as far as Devin Booker should have been on that list. A lot of people have said Powell. It was between Powell or Harden. Kyrie Irving, I thought, even though he's had his mercurial behavior, definitely deserved it this year out in Dallas. Sabonis is continuing to be not appreciated for all that he does. Never thought I'd say that. I'd easily put them over, again, the Williamses and the Jaren Jacksons. I think those guys are better than some of the ones that weren't on the list. And most people love to talk about the snubs. And the game itself, I mean, we could try to fix it. I want to focus more on the Saturday, but I will say for the All-Star game, what would I do to actually fix the All-Star game? They're making a new attempt. This will be interesting. They're going to have a new format, which they've tried this, 960 different ways of changing the format from year to year. If you can't get them to have some pride and not have a fear of injury to overweigh whether it's worth taking a risk to even play any defense, you're going to have a problem no matter what you do. So this is why I don't want to focus too much on Sunday, because the game itself, what do you do when they make so much money, they have a fear of injury, and it's really not a pride thing anymore if you get scored on in the All-Star game. They don't care. So they're going to try to change the format again, I guess. We'll see how it goes. And it's kind of like the NFL kickoff. I don't even really understand it. I might have to wait till I see it to even get it. It's going to be in the new format for the All-Star game, a tournament style, they said, where they're going to have 4 teams of 8 players. One of those will be the winners of the Rising Star competitions. The 3 teams of 8 from the NBA All-Star rosters will be drafted by Kenny Smith, Shaq, and Charles on Inside the NBA on TNT. I don't know, what they're doing. I'm gonna have to again. It's gonna be like the kickoff in the NFL. I'll have to see it to quite get it, but format change doesn't mean shit until you get players to care, until you can get them to not worry about getting hurt. You're going to continue to have embarrassing final scores of 211 to 186. 211 to 186. It really was that really was the tipping point of people going Jesus H. Christ, dude, that is just pathetic. I will say though for Saturday. So let me move on because I want to talk about Saturday instead. There was an almost save, and unfortunately, I don't know what the three-point contest is going to do because Caitlin unfortunately passed. Hit the picture here for me, Mateo. Caitlin said no to the three-point dream contest matchup, and it's too bad because, Steph and Sabrina was the All-Star weekend last year, in case y'all watched it. Most of y'all did. 5.4 million viewers was the most watched thing in Saturday weekend All-Stars in 5 years there. And right after it happened, and again, I was like everyone else, glued to my seat. Right after it happened, I was talking to my girl. I'm like, the only thing they can do now is sequel. And you got to one-up it. So we had Steph versus Sabrina. Next year, how cool would it be to make Klay Thompson go against Steph Curry? And then in order to bring back another girl, Caitlin's about to come to the NBA. Let's bring in Caitlin. And then we'll have Steph and Caitlin and Klay and Sabrina. We'll intertwine everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. The NBA apparently had that exact thought. And they asked her to do it. And she said no.
How about no?
And it sucks because if it would have happened, boy, that would have hit all sorts of new records. If Steph versus Sabrina got 5.4, Caitlin and Steph in the same three-point contest easily would have got 8 million. But in case you missed it, I'll read it here for you. Fever's Caitlin Clark passed on the NBA All-Star Game three-point contest because she wants her first three-point contest to come at the WNBA All-Star Weekend next year in Indianapolis. She wants to have her first three-point contest and for the WNBA home crowd and not give the NBA a boost, and has not said she will not participate in the special challenge. Her representative said Wednesday there had been speculation that she might participate in contests similar to last year where Steph Curry beat, the Liberty's Sabrina Ionescu in the NBA versus WNBA three-point challenge. Curry and Ionescu have had conversations to return, and it could include Klay Thompson. Ionescu told the press earlier this month she plans to be at the All-Star festivities, but declined to elaborate on whether she'd be involved in any on-court activities. But the one that we were all hoping for, the one that I called for, and the one that we all were screaming for, and the NBA was smart enough to ask for is not going to happen. No Steph and Caitlin, no Klay versus Sabrina. So no matter what you do, it just ain't going to be, it'll be all right, but it ain't going to be the same. It's, it's cool. It's cute, but Steph versus Caitlin would have easily, if Steph versus Sabrina would have got 5.4, Caitlin and Steph would have got 8 million. Throwing in Klay and Sabrina would have only been icing on the cake. And so it's sad on a few fronts, and let me say this, it's sad on a few fronts. One, going back to the state of the union of the NBA and addressing that overall as a whole, it is crazy to think that the NBA is doing kind of so poorly right now that they need a WNBA star to come save their All-Star weekend. And they're right. They're right, because Steph versus Sabrina was the most watched at 5.4. Again, I think Steph versus Caitlin would have easily got 8 million and broke all sorts of records, and it would have been the most watched NBA event if they would have got that 8 million, not named the NBA Finals. So it's crazy to think that the NBA's All-Star Weekend is doing so bad that we are now asking the WNBA, easily for the first time ever, to say, hey, we need some of your star power, we're not doing enough on our own. But the other reason it's sad, and this is really more unfortunate, it's sad that she said no because it's pretty clear that we're kind of taking the love of the game away from Caitlin. And I don't want to be dramatic, but I'm gonna, because, this is someone in Caitlin Clark who clearly her whole life has lived the game, has ate it, slept it, and is now just not turned down this, which seemed fun. She turned down the unrivaled 3-on-3. Caitlin Clark seems tired. She seems tired, not just from the, long schedule she had and all the playing. She seems tired of us. And it sucks because all I've ever seen with Caitlin, she's a nice girl, she's a class act. She whines to the refs too much, I will say that. But other than that, never has a bad thing to say about anybody. And boy, she caught so much unrelated trauma from the American public that really had nothing to do with her or basketball. To the point of she could not win for losing. No matter what she did or said, everyone had a comment. She took Iowa to consecutive title games. Well, you didn't win, even though she went against clearly over, matched teams there. She had higher TV ratings than the men did in the NCAA. First time ever. Well, it really wasn't you. It was really Angel. We weren't there for you. We were there for Angel. WNBA ticket sales. Then she goes on, she becomes the highest ever. Well, it's because you're white. You know, it's white privilege, ignoring that the WNBA is not the NBA. They've had white stars forever. Plum, Stewart, Taurasi, Sue Bird. I can go on, which made no sense. Then she wins Time Athlete of the Year. That should be great, right? The owner of another team. Why is she going to get the Time Athlete of the Year? Even though it's the Athlete of the Year, why don't they make it the Team of the Year? Why do they have the whole WNBA on the cover? Then she finally, in that interview, addresses the white privilege that a lot of people say that she needed to. And what did you do? It's too late. She didn't really mean it. It's too late, didn't mean it. And then the people that were on her side, on the other side of the political spectrum, got mad at her for saying it. They were like, oh, screw Caitlyn. She's addressing white privilege. She said we need to do this. I can't stand her. I'm not going to watch her anymore. That girl could not win for losing. No matter what we did, we had something to say or something to do, and it clearly dragged the love out of her to the point of she's looking at, like, again, unrivaled 3-on-3. You want to make $1 million? Pass. Hey, cool three-point idea. You, Steph, Clay, Sabrina, we're going to have you highlight the weekend. You want to do it? Pass. It is pretty clear to me, besides the NBA is in trouble needing to ask a WNBA player to come save their bacon, it is also clear to me that that girl has needed a break, and she is a little bit tired of everyone in our bullshit, and it's unfortunate because all I've ever seen is a pretty classy, nice girl who clearly loves the game, that clearly seems tired and clearly told all y'all to stick it.
How about new?
And said, I'm staying home. I've had enough for a while. I'm taking a break. I'll be back next season. Shout out to the Fever. Let me mention this real quick. Re-signed Kelsey Mitchell, added Howard as well. Looks like they're going to have a very good year, WNBA. Still got a ways to go there, so we'll keep it on the NBA. But it was sad. It was unfortunate. I really wanted to see Caitlyn and Steph get it on in a three-point contest. I predicted it the second the first one ended, and we're not going to get it. So what can you do? Speaking of saving things, dunk contest.
Somebody save me.
Also needs to be saved, and it is so crazy to me with the dunk contest that the NBA screws this up. I'm looking at the Final Four for this one, the contestants, Mac McClung, Castle, Buzelis, Andre Jackson Jr., and the format and everything else. It is crazy how bad the NBA is screwing up the dunk contest, because the dunk contest could and should and has been the greatest thing ever invented by any all-star event ever in history. Hit this video here for me. We need to fix the dunk contest because nothing beats a great dunk contest. It's not just the most exciting part of All-Star Weekend in the NBA, it is the best All-Star event ever created. It is the perfect mix of athleticism, coordination, grace, creativity, to the point of, I don't know why it's not an Olympic event. I don't know why people don't have a dunk contest in the Summer Olympics. Why isn't it when breakdancing, badminton, handball are all events? The dunk contest should be there. And not what they've tried to do. They've done little things like 3-on-3. They had the dunk contest in 2014. They had a youth one. I'm talking about a worldwide competitive dunk contest because we already have the dunk leagues where they compete worldwide. I mean, I think ratings-wise, it would only lose to maybe gymnastics, maybe some track and swimming, because it is, again, the perfect combination of athleticism, coordination, grace, and creativities, and it is just, you create core memories. Core memories in dunk contest. I remember Julius and Jordan from the free throw line. I remember Little Spud and then him later dunking over Nate Robinson years later. I remember D. Brown and Sabalos with the blindfold. I remember Vince Carter between the legs versus T-Mac and Steve Francis. I remember Jason Richardson, one of the most underrated dunkers of all time. I remember just recently Zach LaVine and Gordon and the battles they had. The dunk contest is not just the coolest part of the NBA. It is one of the coolest events ever created. It doesn't get enough love and needs to be saved and needs to be fixed in the NBA currently, because it is almost crazy to me that you've been able to screw up something so perfect and so sweet. And the only other complaint, I say, Olympics. Why do we not have this as an Olympic event for real? Not the 3-on-3 youth things or some of the stuff they tried. I want to see it as an actual Olympic event. It deserves to be on that category in the same level certain things in track and field and swimming and other big events are, especially gymnastics. I think it competes right up there with the same level of training. And again, all sorts of things you need put together to do it. As far as actually fixing it, besides the format stuff, again, the names. What names do we have? Besides Mac McClung, who do we have? Castle, Buzelis, Andre Jackson. This is not who should be in the NBA dunk contest. And as the list I did, back in the day, we used to have all the good names. We used to have the Jordans. We used to have, Spud and Wilkins. We used to have Vince Carter. We used to have Jason Richardson. We used to even have LaVine and Aaron Gordon. They were great too. This is just names of nobodies here. And Vince Carter, the greatest dunker arguably of all time, had an interesting take on this. They asked him, who do they think should be the top 4 guys you would put in your dunk contest this year? And this is what he had to say. Hit it for me, Mateo, if you don't mind. Vince Carter's top 4 dunkers, if he was allowed to pick them.
There's probably a few more, but there's 4 guys that I would like to see in the dunk contest, and I would ask your opinion as well. First is Shaedon Sharp.
You just watched him.
Here's a guy that I think that is very capable of winning. Jalen Johnson. Another athlete that I think has some tricks. Obviously, Ja Morant, very athletic.
Good.
And lastly, Jalen Green.
Yes. And we have seen Jalen Green in the dunk contest.
Yeah, they're not just leapers, but I think they have tricks. And I think they can wow us with tricks, aerial tricks, not just, they jump really high. So those are 4 guys that I think that I would love to see that are capable of winning. Did I miss anyone?
Winning against who?
Against the field.
Not my boy Mac McClung.
Did I miss anyone?
Nobody's beating Mac McClung. You heard it here first.
And Mac should be out there, even though he is a G Leaguer. He is the 2-time defending champ. But yeah, I agree with Vince as far as names. Ja Morant is clearly a great idea. Jalen Green. I would also throw in, Anthony Edwards, Zion Williamson, Jonathan Kuminga into that list. But I'll even leave it to you a little bit here. Who would y'all add to the dunk contest in order to save it? What stars do you think our best dunkers should be involved? Let me know in the comments underneath, and we could talk about that later. The only other thing I would do to fix the dunk contest, I have one rule because they do tweak the formats every year. And this is the big one to me, and I'm not the first one to make this complaint. But if I was going to do one thing to fix the dunk contest besides add names that we actually give a shit about, hit the video here for me. No props until the final round. The biggest problem in dunk contests today is all these stupid-ass props. From now on, if it was up to me, you would not be allowed props until the final round. You want props for the first 2 rounds? Here are your props. 2 legs and a ball. Get creative, and if you aren't good enough to do something impressive with just your 2 legs and a ball for the first couple rounds, then you don't deserve to make it to the finals. Once you get there, then you can bring out all the nonsense. You can bring out another person. You can bring out a car. You can bring out a phone booth, a table, a ladder, 2 rims, candles, teddy bears, airplanes, God knows what else. But every year, they have gotten worse and worse with adding these dumbass props. It takes way too long. It gets way too dragged out, and a lot of times it's just embarrassing. It's face palm, head shaking bad and uncomfortable and awkward. From now on, I don't want to see any more props in the NBA dunk contest unless you make it to the final round. For the first couple rounds, you have, again, your props are your feet, your ball, and your brain, and you figure it out, because this type of silly shit here, oh God, this wasn't even a prop, but also the amount of attempts too, the Chris Anderson, Birdman, go YouTube and watch this embarrassment. This was just, yuck. But again, no other people, no cars, no phone booths, no tables, no ladders, no 2 rims, no candles, no teddy bears, nothing. Until the final round, you get to use your body. Jaylen Brown, this was just cringeworthy all around. Cringeworthy. No more props. That's how I would do fixed dunk contest. All right. Looks like I'm almost up on time here. Let me say this one more thing. I did want to make a point, since I'm addressing the NBA, and I might have to call it after this. Last part of my State of the Union of things that need to be saved and needs to be fixed. Let me bring up the NBA Cup real quick.
Somebody say
Hit this for me here, Mateo. How do we fix the NBA Cup, as I've always called it, the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl? And it really isn't far off. I mean, the NBA Cup is probably, of all the trying to move things globally that Adam Silver has done, the dumbest and the worst idea that we've come up with. If you wanted to try to save it, I got a couple ideas to how we can fix the Emirates and the NBA Cup, or as now I call it, the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl, because that really is, if you've seen Semi-Pro, he makes up this game at the end of the year that no one cares about for 4th place, and when they ask him about it, he's like, but we got a trophy. It's the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
the trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious. I've seen it.
The NBA Cup has not become much different. It is just as pointless. It is just as forced. It is just as watched as far as low ratings, down 40% from last year. And it started, of course, the previous years, the in-season tournament. I don't even understand the format to this day. It's a multi-stage knockout format that they mirrored from a European soccer league. The most exciting parts, in my opinion, are the colored courts. The jerseys are different. And seeing, again, if you can actually understand what the hell this algebraic format is at all to try to know who plays who. It doesn't count, which was a big thing I don't understand to this day. The NBA Cup, in case you don't know, doesn't even count. It's considered an 83rd game. The final game doesn't count on your record, doesn't count on your team or personal record at all. And even the incentives, the banner, which, a banner, and then they have a cash prize of $500,000 per player to let you know that's less money than most of the NBA stars make. I got news for you, NBA. $500,000 is not making a Steph Curry or Giannis Antetokounmpo move when they make over $700,000 per regular game. They will actually make less money winning the NBA Cup than they would just playing in a regular season game. So the banner prize is stupid. The cash prize is stupid. There's been no boost at all in ratings. Matter of fact, it's gone down. A lot of people like me have made fun of it. We called it pointless because it is. It's the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl, and it's nonsense.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious. I've seen it.
So what would I do to fix it? I got two things for you. First thing I would do, and this is a big one, how would you save the NBA Cup and make people actually care and play hard and have people watch it? I would make it count. I would make it count. The winner of the Cup next season gets a play-in tournament appearance guaranteed. That would make it actually worthwhile this early on in the season, because think about it. If you're an NBA team and you're one of these teams that's kind of on the fringe and you actually want to tank and still make it into the lottery next season, if you win the Cup and you work really hard and you actually get it done, and I guarantee you a playoff spot, that means you get the best of both worlds. You're not only able to continue to move towards a lottery pick after you win the NBA Cup, but all these young guys, your core, are going to get a great playoff experience, and they're going to get a lot of things that they need going forward. So you can build on both fronts. You can still tank and get lottery picks, and you could still get playoff experience. And hell, the Miami Heat, the 8th seed, actually made a finals appearance. Maybe you'll have a miracle run. But if you want it to count and make people care, I would include a play-in guaranteed at least the 10th spot if you actually win this dumbass tournament. And the second thing I would do is you got to focus on human interest. If you're not going to add something that's significant, you got to go significant as far as why should we care other than, again, cash prizes that don't even mean enough to the NBA stars. Think American Idol. Think America's Got Talent. Go to the sob stories. You ever watch those shows? A lot of times the contestants, they get voted to the top and at least get to the final rounds. A lot of times they're not the best singers, but they're good human interest stories. That's what the NBA should focus on. And I'll give you a perfect example. Giannis Antetokounmpo, after they won this year, did tell us a story. There was a two-way player at the end of their bench, a guy named Liam Robbins, who said he was needed to win that NBA Cup to get that bonus, because to that end of the bench guy, that $500,000 prize is going to help him buy a house. And so Giannis promised, I'm going to give my best effort because I want this guy Liam, who you never heard of, to have the opportunity to buy a house, and he was able to do that. That's the human interest story. That's what I'm saying. Give me the sob story. Give me that, again, you watch these contestants, American Idol, America's Got Talent. A lot of times they're mediocre sinkers, but they're smart enough to go like, yeah, well, my house burned down and my grandpappy's got 4 eyeballs that need surgery. They give you all this, and the next thing you know, you're rooting for them. If you're not going to actually give us something important like an actual playoff position guaranteed, at least give us a story, man. Sit me down on your lap and tell me something. Tell me about some guy I've never heard of and why he needs this money. Tell me why I should be interested, other than, again, NBA stars like Giannis and Steph. Why would they be interested? They literally make less money winning this tournament than they do playing on a Tuesday in Washington. Human interest, playoff guarantees are the only ways you could fix the NBA Cup. Other than that, I got nothing else for you. So, covered those. How am I doing on time here? I think I'm probably done. Got to cut it. All right, I had more stories. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait till next time, but I at least got everything I wanted to do as far as how would I fix the league, state of the union, and kind of where it's at. NBA overall is doing okay. Needs some fixes. All-Star Weekend, definitely. NBA Cup, definitely. Need some stars to come from around here. Other than that, it's our time. It's our part of the season. It's our part of the year. After the Super Bowl, it's all basketball, baby. So we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep doing our thing. And I'll see you next time. Bye.